Well, once again, welcome back. If you're joining us for the very first time today, my name is April Colquitt. I'm on staff here at Wellspring, and we are diving right into week 6 of our Stronger series. For the last few weeks, we've been learning what it would look like for us to have a strong faith, even in the face of uncertainty, even when we don't understand what's happening. How do we have an unwavering, unshakable faith? And what we're learning is that it all comes down to trust. God is not just a big God. He is also a loving Father. And He sent His only Son into the world to rescue us and redeem us and to restore a relationship that was broken because of sin. And the way that we reconnect with God and we restore that relationship is by trusting Him and putting our faith in Him. And so, like any other relationship, what we've been saying is that the stronger the trust, the better the relationship will be. We believe that the better our relationship is with God, that the better our lives will be, the stronger our families will be, the stronger our church will be, the better and stronger even our community will be. And so we've been looking at 5 things together this summer that we think help us develop a stronger trust in God. And what we're doing is we're calling them the 5 faith catalysts, and here they are. I'll list them for you. Practical teaching, providential relationships, private disciplines, personal ministry, and pivotal circumstances. And what I've loved about this series so far is that every week we've been sitting down with some of our team. We're introducing one of these faith catalysts, and then we're sitting down with some of our staff and leaders of Wellspring Church, and we're learning from them how they've seen their trust develop and grow through some of these faith catalysts. And it's been a really fun series. If you've missed any of the last few weeks or you haven't had the chance to join us yet, I want to encourage you to hop over to wellspringchurch.tv or log on to the Wellspring app and catch up on those conversations. We have been learning so much together, and it's been amazing so far. And if you have been joining us every week, you might have guessed by now that today we're going to talk about personal ministry. Oftentimes when you hear someone share about their faith, you'll hear them tell about a time when they literally took a leap of faith to step outside of their comfort zone and found the courage to do something that they never thought was possible. Oftentimes it will involve, like I said, stepping outside that comfort zone and being involved in an activity aimed at helping someone else. You might hear them say things like, I never thought it would be possible, but I decided to try it. They may have said, I didn't really feel equipped, but I just thought that I would be a part of leading this Bible study. Maybe somebody was a brand new Christian and they didn't know a whole lot about their faith yet, but they felt compelled to share their story with someone and share the gospel. You might have a story like that, or know somebody who does. If you do, you know that those opportunities are so valuable in helping us learn to trust God. For me, the very first time that someone ever asked me to stand in front of someone and tell them about my story of faith, I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school, and I had an uncle who had this organization called Circle of Champions. And what he would do is he would invite athletes, teams of athletes from nearby high schools to come to a local restaurant. He would feed them a meal, and he would, as they were eating, he would have someone else, usually a student, to share their story of life change. So one time he asked me to do it, and I was like, you want me at 17 years old to stand up in a restaurant in front of a football team full of cute boys and tell them about Jesus? I think I'm good. No thanks. But yet somehow I felt compelled to do it, and so I did. And then I did it a second time and a third time and a fourth time and several more times after that. And every time that I would stand up and tell my story and share how Jesus had changed my life, I would walk away thinking, what in the world did I just say? And yet my uncle would later share with me that someone felt compelled to take a step in their faith journey. And that's when I learned to trust that God could do something through me even when I didn't feel ready. That's what personal ministry is really all about, is trusting that God can do something through us and even in us, even when we don't feel ready or equipped. There are so many stories like that in the Bible where we see God calling someone or assigning someone to a specific task, usually someone that you wouldn't expect to be chosen for the job. And one of my favorite stories like that is found in the Old Testament in the book of Judges, and it's about this young guy named Gideon. And just like all the rest, Gideon was just a regular guy. There was nothing extraordinary about him. He didn't have any special talents that qualified him for the job. but God chose Gideon to lead Israel in battle. What happened was Israel had been invaded and terrorized by this mean group of people called the Midianites, and they had invaded Israel and were stealing their crops and their livestock, and they were destroying their homes. So the Israelites ran for the hills. They were literally hiding in mountains and caves away from the enemy. And God, in his mercy and kindness, yet again decided to go to the aid of his people, the Israelites. So he chose Gideon to lead the way. And so he sends an angel to recruit Gideon for the job. And the angel finds Gideon literally hiding in a hole. And here's what he says to Gideon. He says, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." Now, just to be clear, Gideon hasn't done anything heroic yet. He is hiding from the enemy currently, and he is feeling probably not like a hero, and he actually responds and reacts to the angel in what I think sounds like anger. He says, "Sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us over to the Midianites." To me, that's an aggressive response to the angel. It sounds like maybe Gideon is a little hangry. I mean, they're starving, he's oppressed, he's hiding from the enemy, and he is mad about the situation. And he's holding nothing back. He is letting the angel of the Lord know exactly how he feels. And it's a good thing that he feels that way, because God's about to instruct Gideon to do something about it. He says, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." I love this part of the story because Gideon has just lashed out in anger. He's expressed his feelings, and it's almost like God is saying, harness all that emotion, Gideon, and take that energy and go fight the enemy. Go to battle. And Gideon says, "But Lord, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family." See, Gideon could clearly see that there was a need, there was a problem, and he wanted a solution. He just never thought he would be the one to solve the problem. He didn't see how he could be the one to solve the problem. He says, "My family comes from nothing. I'm the weakest in the whole bunch. I don't know anything about going to battle. How do you expect me to help save Israel?" See, he was so focused on his weakness, on what he couldn't do, and how he possibly could do anything to help Israel, that he wasn't looking to who would be helping him. Isn't that oftentimes our response to God? When we see a need and God has given us the eyes to see what someone else needs, or we feel called or we feel compelled to help someone, but we hesitate to say yes. And that hesitation, I believe, comes from a place of self-doubt. We do exactly what Gideon did, and we go straight to our point of weakness and we say, "I am not able, I am not qualified, I'm not doing that," right? But in the same way that we feel a hesitation because of self-doubt, I think that ultimately that hesitation comes from a lack of trust. We fail to trust that God is able to do something through us when we don't feel equipped to do it. We fail to trust that God can move through us. Maybe someone has said to you something like, "You have a great story to tell. It could really encourage someone. You should share your story." And all you can think is, who am I to tell someone else how to live? I'm not even great with my words at all. Or maybe someone has a family member that needs help being taken care of, and you have hesitated to step in and help because you think, "I'm not a great caretaker. I don't have any amount of patience whatsoever. I'm not the person for the job." Every time you hear us talk about family ministry and working with young people, something pulls at your heartstrings, but you ignore it because you think you're not ready to lead anyone else. It's so easy for us to dismiss an opportunity to help because we get held up on how we possibly could do anything to help, instead of looking to who is the one who's calling us to help. And when you look carefully at Gideon's story, you see that God never asked Gideon to go into battle alone. He says this in response to Gideon. He says, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man. I will be with you. You will be able because of me, Gideon. God rarely waits until we feel able or ready or qualified to take action before he asks us to do something. That's just not the way God works. That is where the trust comes in, right? If we felt like we were ready to take the next step, if we felt like we were ready and qualified to do what God's asked us to do, we wouldn't need to rely on him. It's in the trusting him that grows our faith and teaches us what God is able to do through us. And so when God is prompting us to do something, or we see a need and we maybe want to help, but we hesitate, our question is, how? How can we do anything? And the answer is him. When our question is how, the answer is him. It's in trusting and relying on God that we're able, and believing that he will be with us. You notice that God didn't say to Gideon, I'll go with you if you want me to, or if I have to, I'll step in and help you. He says, I will be with you, and you will have no trouble defeating the enemy. Oftentimes when God calls us to do something, or when we see a need and we feel like maybe we're supposed to take a step, we hesitate, and we want to know how things work. It's almost like we want to see the answer sheet before the test. Or that's how I operate. I want to know how I'm going to be able to do it. How will any of this be possible? How can I do that? How will we get from point A to point B? We're almost like 5-year-olds. I've worked with kids for a long time, and 5-year-olds reach the age where they just start wanting to know how everything is going to work. How does a cloud make rain? How does a caterpillar turn into a butterfly inside of the cocoon? How does it work? How did God make me? And what do we say as their parents or their teachers? Usually something along the lines of, you'll understand it when you're older, but for now, just trust me. That is what God is looking for in us. He's looking for trust, not in how, but in who. When God asks you to do something, it's okay for you to resource others for next steps or wisdom or insight from them. But don't hesitate to say yes because you don't feel ready or competent. Have confidence in God's competence and believe that he will equip you for how he has called you. When you do that, I believe if you do that, you will see God move through you in a way that you never thought possible, and it will grow your trust and your faith in him. It will take your relationship with God to the next level of trust and confidence. I am so excited for this next part of our service today. Every week we've been hearing from stories of other people of how they've seen God grow their faith and how they've learned to trust God. And I believe the story that you're going to hear today will bless you. You're going to love it. We're going to hear from someone who I have the utmost respect and love for. I cannot wait to share it with you. But first, I would love to pray for you. God, thank you so much for always being with us. Thank you for being a loving Father who is in pursuit of relationship with us. And we are so grateful for how you have made a way for that relationship to be possible through your Son, Jesus. God, I pray that when we see a need, when we feel called to do something, that we would not hesitate, that we would trust that you are able and that it is your power working through us to accomplish those tasks. I pray that we would not get held up on how, God, but that we would look to who, and that our confidence would be in you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys. Well, like I said, so excited to share this next part of our service with you. This is Dave Kirkham. He serves in Wellspring Kids, and he's going to share a little bit with you today about his story of personal ministry and how he has learned to trust God through that in his life. So, Dave, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about, share with them a little bit how you came to Wellspring.
We moved down to South Carolina 4 years ago. And
you're a New Yorker.
Yeah, we are New Yorkers, Mary and I, our family. And it was our first phase of retirement. We wanted to move down south, and we realized our faith was very strong. We realized one of the first things we want to do is find ourselves a church that we could get involved in and be a part of. Mm-hmm. And we visited some other churches. They were smaller churches. And Mary and I had both said, "Now, I don't know if we want to be a part of a large church." But we found our way to Wellspring one day, and it was the day that Pastor Trey was teaching about the core values of the church.
Okay.
And all the core values matched exactly what our beliefs were. And I said, I wonder if God's speaking to us. Let's pray about it. And we found ourselves back here the next week and pretty much every week since.
That's awesome. I love how you said it was the first phase of your retirement. It kind of, it's like a hint into who you are, Dave. So Dave is pretty organized, planned. He prepares so much. Dave serves in our Wellspring Kids environment, and I've had the privilege of getting to know him through that. And you always come in so prepared. So I know you're a planner. I know that you're super organized. So did you ever think that serving in kids would be a part of something that you would do? Did you ever see yourself doing that?
Not until I got involved. And
it wasn't part of the plan.
No, it was not part of the plan.
God
was laughing. God was laughing down up to that.
Yeah, and then did you guys even have kids of your own at that point?
We did not have any children of our own.
And so tell us a little bit about that story.
It was, we were 23, I believe, at the time. We had been married for 4 years already, and we knew we wanted to have children. I had agreed to that because I liked them. I didn't know I loved them. I didn't know I had a passion for teaching them about Jesus. But we wanted to have children. And Mary became pregnant, it must have been April of 1985. And the pregnancy went pretty smoothly all the way through it until we reached Halloween Day of 1985. And at that point, what had happened is that morning, got up, we were both preparing for our jobs and to leave for work, and I was in the bedroom, probably dressing, and I heard her scream from the bathroom, David, I need your help. My water just broke, and I believe I'm having contractions. Well, I was in a day. I said, this just can't be true. It was like I was dreaming. There's no way. And I wasn't in a state of panic because I didn't know what was going on at the time. And it took a while. But I went in, ran in to see what was the matter. And sure enough, her water had broke, and we found ourselves on the way to the pediatric ward in the hospital, which was an hour away. And an hour after that, 2 hours since she had screamed for me to help her, little Randy David was born, and he was born at 26 weeks gestation, and he was 1 pound 7 ounces.
Wow.
It was a fetus. It wasn't really a baby. And everything went on from there. And he grew, and we thought he was doing better. But April, the ups and downs that we experienced, it was such an emotional roller coaster.
And it takes a toll on your faith.
Oh,
you had faith. You guys both had faith.
We were both, we both knew Jesus at the time, and our faith was very important to us. Mary had grown up as a Christian, and I had just committed to Christ, a couple years earlier, when I had met her, in fact. And my faith was still growing, but I had good faith. My faith was strong. At least I thought it was strong. But going through this experience, up and down, and there were surgeries. He had open heart surgery with only a local anesthetic. And just every time we turned around, when there was an up, the doctors would tell us something that was a down. And we didn't know what to think. We didn't even know. Things happened so fast with the ups and downs, we didn't even have time to pray, to ask God to help us. But we did. Prayer was important. And what was important with the prayer that God began to show me some things was that I wanted God, and I thought, my faith told me that God was going to answer my prayers the way I wanted, not necessarily the way He wanted.
Yeah.
So, we went on, and it was May of that following year that Randy was 8 months old now. He got up to about 10 pounds. We actually got to the point, what a joy. It was the best up that we had. We brought him home for a night. And I think I even remember the date because I'm a numbers guy. It was May 5th that we brought him home, stayed with us that night. The next morning, he developed a really bad cough, and it got so bad that we said, no, we got to take him back. the monitor, the oxygen monitor, kept going off. And we thought, no, we can't do this alone. We got to take him back. So back to the hospital. Randy passed away in Mary's and my arms that night. It was maybe it was the 6th. He went for a day in our arms. And that was probably our greatest loss. We've never had a loss like that. And we were kind of both numb because we just couldn't believe what had happened and what our lives had been through. And we were both feeling that way. Well, I remember working in Syracuse and coming home one night. It was maybe, it might have been a few weeks later. I don't remember exactly. But my faith continued to weaken. And the anger got so bad that I remember at a stoplight banging the steering wheel so hard that I hurt my fist when I was banging it. And I prayed then, but my prayer at that moment in time, when I looked up after banging that steering wheel, I said, God, I hate you for doing what you did. Why would a God that's so loving, and I've been taught everything about your mercy and your grace, why would you do that to me? And he told me as we were headed home that night, pretty much immediately, he said, Dave, you may not have Randy here anymore, but Randy is being taken care of, and you'll see him again, and everything's going to be fine. And he said, he told me specifically, I may have one of your children now, but I'm going to bless you with so many children in your life as you go through your life that they're going to be numbered in the hundreds and maybe in the thousands. And that's exactly through children's ministry. I've worked in children's ministry almost as long as you've been alive. And through those years, I've literally worked with hundreds, if not, it's got to be in the thousands now, of children that God has used me to teach what Jesus Christ is like and the importance of having Jesus Christ in our lives.
It reminds me a lot of what we just talked about with Gideon's story. You know, Gideon was like, this is a terrible situation. Why aren't you doing something, God? And God said, well, I'm about to do something and I'm going to use you to do it. But it was also, he was coming from a place of anger. You know, he had so much emotion. And I feel like God was able to use that emotion that Gideon was experiencing. That was kind of, you know, a little bit of your story.
That was a modern day story.
Is there a point where you said, okay, I believe that God is calling me. He's getting me ready to do something with kids. Was there a turning point or maybe a moment where you finally found the courage to take that step? Because that's what we hesitate and we think, I'm not ready yet.
Oh, I thought, I'm not ready. And I had remembered the story of what I had told my wife. I had laughed when she had asked me if I was going to. And now things become a little bit clearer, but God only gives you so much that what you can handle at the time. Yeah. And through the next probably month, maybe it was a little more than a month, I don't really remember, God began to say, Dave, I want you to work with kids. This church, and I have many other churches that need helpers in children's ministry. And you, even though you're not trained in working with children, you're not an elementary school teacher, you have a passion. It's in your heart, and I know it's been there all along. God spoke to me like that. I clearly hear him telling me that passion was in my heart. And sure enough, it was. The one moment that I realized it didn't take long after that to go to the children's ministry director of the church we were in at the time and say, Martha, if you have some minor jobs to do, maybe filling in or whatever, I think I'm ready to take a step of working with some children. And I said, but Martha, please, I feel uncomfortable. Please don't put me alone with kids. Well,
I'll lead, but I don't really want to lead.
It happened a week later, and she said, Dave, we want to start a CLC, Christian Life Club ministry during the midweek, and I want you to lead it. Would you be willing to? I just said yes, because I figured, okay, I trust Martha. I still am friends with her to this day, and not realizing that I was the only person that was going to be there that first night. Well, there weren't that many kids, but I did minister alone, and it was like, whoa, and I just looked up to God and I said, what is this all about? What I told you I'd do one thing, and here you go. You're throwing me to lion's den here. Well, I guess it worked out for Daniel, so it worked out for me too. And at first it was just fun. It was just, Dave, just get through it.
Yeah.
Just get through it and don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
So you don't have these kids go home and tell their parents that they hate me and I'm a bad guy or something. But
I cannot imagine, Dave.
It wasn't long later that a young woman in third grade came up to me and said, Dave, I understand the Bible studies that we've gone through and what you've been saying about Jesus. Mm-hmm. How do I have Jesus in my life? Mm-hmm. I want to know more about him, and I want to have him in my life. Well, that was just the ultimate. Yeah. Someone would be coming to me, basically a Christian for less than 5 years, and asking me about what they need to do to have Jesus in their life. So I told her the salvation message. We prayed together, and I remember Samantha was her name. She had Jesus in her life at that point. And then we go home and tell her parents about it. I think I'd called them. And just everybody was so excited, but nobody was as excited as I was, because God had just used me with minor trust, early faith. I didn't know really anything about the Bible. And the God of the universe had used me, of all people, to lead another human being, a child, to Christ. And I can't tell you what emotions ran through me. I was proud of myself. I realized I probably shouldn't be, but I said, man, God cares enough about me to use me for personal ministry. Yeah. It was pretty amazing what God had done for me. And I'm not worthy of any of it.
When we finally get the courage to take that step and follow God in obedience for what he's asked us to do, it opens a floodgate of so many more opportunities where God is able to move through us, because we've made ourselves available and willing, even when we don't totally feel ready or totally feel competent or able. And I love that you shared that, because that is what, like you said, personal ministry is really all about. It's just us stepping out of the way and saying, God, I don't really know how you're going to do this, but I'm here and I'm willing, so put me in, Coach, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I hope Dave's story today helped you to see that God can do something through you when you make yourself willing and available to him. He can do something so incredible, even if you don't feel ready yet, even if you don't see yourself as capable. God will be with you, so have courage to trust him to do something in you. We're getting ready to sing a song, and then we're going to sit down with our team as we wrap up today.
All right, personal ministry, obviously something that has changed all of our lives. And as we wrap up today, we want to give you just some very, very simple, practical next steps. So, Abby, let's say someone's at home, they've never served before, they've never tried, they're convinced. They want to become a part of this, they want to see God use them. What do they do?
Yeah, so we're excited that if you are ready to take that step today, we want to make it super simple for you. We actually have a section in our app that says, I'm ready to serve. We have a brief survey there that'll ask you a little bit of your story, maybe where you'd like to serve. And then we would actually like to pair you with a mentor or a leader over these next few weeks. Eventually, we are going to be gathering back in this building. There'll be physical ways to serve. But while we are gathering here online, we want to make sure you are connected and ready to take your next steps.
And one of the cool things about our church is that we have a thriving student population that serves as well. So Eric, if there's a student watching today and they want to get involved in personal ministry, what do they do?
Yeah, we have a ton of students that serve, and we love them serving in our areas. If you're interested in serving, just reach out to your tribe leader and they'll help you know the right steps to take, and we'll get you connected.
Perfect.
As always, if you have any questions about today's service or how to take that next step, you don't have the Wellspring app or you're not on social media, please send my team an email at care@wellspringchurch.tv, students, adults alike, and we will help you take those next steps, whatever those might be.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. Hey, so if you're at home and you have heard about personal ministry and you want to take a step, that's how to do it. And I just want to personally encourage you. If you are on the fence, stories you heard today and what we've been talking about, there is nothing that grows your faith stronger than seeing God use you to do more than you can ask or imagine. It's changed our lives. We know it will change yours as well. So really going to challenge you this week, take a step. Just send an email, fill out a form, let us know that you'd like to start serving, and we will connect you and we'll get you ready. And I promise me, you're going to see God strengthen your faith in ways that you did not imagine. So that's your challenge for this week. And then come back next week as we wrap this up. We talk about pivotal circumstances. Can't wait. See you next week.